Hi, welcome or welcome back to my channel and my knitting podcast. If you're new here, my name is Oline and I'm a knitter from Norway. On this podcast we talk about all things knitting. We talk about our whips, finished objects, acquisitions, that's a word I think is really hard to pronounce, but yarn we've gotten, yarn we have plans for, just all things within the knitting universe. And everything else really that comes to mind. But before we delve into all of that, I thought I'd share what I'm wearing. And this one is kind of special to me because this one I have kind of designed myself. It's knit freehand. I really wanted a fingering weight sweater that would fit me perfectly. Just a very basic sweater, but I just wanted that but in fingering weight, and I couldn't really find what I was looking for. I looked at Petiteknit, other designers, I couldn't really find what I was looking for. And even though I knit very, very little freehand now, I kind of stopped knitting freehand when I got pregnant and started knitting a lot of patterns, because I started knitting a lot for babies and I'm not good at free knitting those. But when I was younger, or from the time I was like 5 years old, all up until the point where I got pregnant, I never really followed patterns. I think I followed patterns 2 or 3 times before that point. So I have been kind of freehanding knitting my whole knitting career. So when I found out I wanted something really basic, I just cast it on for the neckline. It's a double folded rib here that's knit down. So I just cast on the collar, knitting the collar down and everything. It's actually something I've learned from knitting from all these patterns. So this is kind of my knitting knowledge from before combined with everything I learned new from knitting from patterns. So it's a folded neckline. It has a couple of German short rows to shape the neck, and then it's just a very basic single stitch raglan. I really like the look of raglan, and it's very seamless when it's just the one stitch. And then I've knit so much for myself before that I kind of know how many stitches will fit me, so I just kind of did the raglan until I had enough stitches that I knew would fit me, and then I just knit the sleeves as long as I wanted them. I wanted them to like not cover my hand but go all the way down my wrist. And then I wanted this sweater, the body of it, I wanted it to stop at about my waist, because I don't really like the shape sweaters get on me when they go past my hips, because those are the widest point on my body, and I feel if a sweater goes past my hips, the whole like midsection gets like lost. It just looks very straight and I don't really like that look. So this just is really a sweater where I've made it to fit exactly what I wanted, and I've used it quite a lot. It's knit in Drops Baby Merino in the color Olive, I believe, and this is my only green sweater so far, but I have the yarn to make another green sweater, so I'm super excited about that. And seeing this and knowing how happy I am to have it and it being like exactly the way I want it really like motivates me to knit more things for myself. And I would really like to design sweaters, but it's very different to knit for yourself, where you know your measurements and you know the amount of stitches and you know everything you will need. It's very different than designing for others and having to grade your pattern and everything. But I definitely want to kind of get back into knitting more for myself without patterns and just really knitting exactly what I want, because I do really enjoy having a sweater I know I've made all on my own. This was made before I really knew how to do Italian cast off, at least before I was very good at it. So it's just a normal cast off in ribbing. So I think if I were to kind of do the last finish on this one, it would be to just pick up the very last rounds here and do tubular cast off. But other than that, it's perfect. It fits me just the way I want to, and it's a fingering weight, so I get to use it all throughout the year because it's thin enough to just, yeah, it works in the summer and then you can layer it up in winter. So I'm really fond of this sweater, and I just need to remind myself to use it because I keep adding so many new exciting sweaters into the mix. But this sweater that I made myself is definitely one I keep going back to. But that said, we can get into my whips, and I'm pleased to say that from last week to this week I have kind of significantly decreased the amount of whips I have. I still have a touch too many whips for what I'm comfortable with, but now I can really see the end nearing, so that's really helpful for the motivation. And I think we can just start with kind of my oldest whips, or kind of my smallest whips, we'll see. But this one, this is the Ankers blouse. It's by Petiteknit, and I'm knitting it up in the size 3 to 6 months. If you've watched me before, you know I'm knitting 2 of these for twins, and I've actually finished one of them this week, but I have run into problems with this one, not with the pattern, not with the yarn really, but I have too little yarn. I got this yarn from a friend, and I thought it would be enough to do the Anker blouse in the 3 to 6 months. But when knitting up the first one, I ran into a problem. I ran out of yarn when I had like 7 centimeters to go. And I thought I had more yarn for this one, but as it turns out, I actually had less. So the plan now is to, yeah, I've ordered more yarn because I ordered more yarn for the first one, like immediately when I found out I had too little yarn. But at that point I still thought I had enough for this one, so I didn't order yarn for this one. And then I kind of asked around in my family if any of them had scraps in this color, and unfortunately none of them did. A couple had scraps in this color, but this is a bit... This was one of the scraps that I got, but as you can see, it's a bit too green, so that didn't work out. So I had to cave and just buy a skein so I could finish this, even though I'm trying to be in a yarn band so I can finish all of my yarn, or at least a lot of it. But buying a skein to finish a project is fine. So now this is kind of on hold, so I can use this skein and the skein I'm getting and do a bit of helical knitting, so the difference between the colors and the dye lots won't be so stark on the body. And then I hope to have enough of this kind of main dye lot to do the sleeves, so I don't have to do helical knitting on the sleeves. But I don't know, I don't feel like there's that much left here. But yeah, I have made a bit of progress since last time I showed this. I think I was about here maybe last time I showed this. So I've done the last rib segment and done the raglan. Let's see, the raglan, and then separated the sleeves, because even though I know I'm going to run out of yarn for this one, I still have this yarn to work from. So I just wanted to have the sleeves and everything separated for when I get that other skein. But now I don't want to knit anymore because I don't want to use this up before I get to do the helical knitting and everything. So this, I thought this was going to be like a 3 or 4 day knit, and I cast this on the 6th of October and it's still not done, so it's definitely been on my needles for far longer than I predicted, but that's the name of the game when you miscalculate how much yarn you're going to need. So that's definitely one of my least favorite things about kind of trying to use up scrap yarn, that you have to be very sure about your measurements, or because if not, you're just going to end up in a waiting game, waiting to finish it and waiting until you get more yarn. But I have ordered the yarn now and it's been shipped, so hopefully I'll get it at the very start of next week. So this hopefully will be done by the time the next podcast gets out. That would be really lovely if this was done then. And then another project that's been on my needles for quite some time is this Miniaugustins No1. It's getting quite hard to show it now because there's so many stitches, but I've actually made a lot of progress on this since last time. Last time I was here, so I've done, oh my god, it's very hard to show with all these stitches, but I've done this whole lace section here, which was my goal, to knit up this lace section, and then I've actually increased my stitch count, so now I'm at the max for how many stitches I'm going to have for this project, and now I'm on the last section before doing the border around the whole blanket. But as you can see, it's quite a lot of stitches on a small needle. I think I'm close to 300 and I'm on a 40 centimeter needle, so it's quite hard to show now. But as you can see, it's like growing in the round, and this project is also taking me quite a lot longer than expected because I just have so many other knits on my needles. But when I sit down and actually work on this, it just flies by. I knit on this, the only time I've had to knit on this week was yesterday, and I got like all of this done. So it's definitely a very motivating knit, and now that I've gotten so far and see how fast it's kind of working up, I'm really excited to get to the border and to finish it and block it and just see how nice this is going to drape. This is also a part of all of the twins net that I'm knitting up. I've already made the other blanket, so I'm really excited to be working on those twin knits. Here is my list for all my twin knits. As you can see, I still have quite a few more boxes to check off, but it's moving along quite nicely, so hopefully I can get through all of this before the twins get here. Crossing my fingers, but yeah, I'm definitely about to gear up in my twin knitting marathon because I really want to get everything done. So this, I think this has to get more of my attention next week. Hopefully maybe I'm on the border the next time I podcast. That would be really nice. Oops, I lost a stitch. But yeah, let me know if you would want like a podcast of me going through all of these twin knits for this baby shower gift. If you're interested to see like everything I made them, all the pattern, all of it. But yeah, that's it for the blanket, I think. No, I didn't tell you what yarn. I didn't tell you what yarn for this either. My brain scrambled. This is Drops Baby Merino in the color Petroleum, I think. And this is Drops Puna in the color Light Grey. Drops Puna is 100% alpaca wool, and it's just the nicest yarn. I'm obsessed with this yarn. I've been knitting with it like off and on. I've knit a Hazel sweater in it and my sweater number 14 V-neck, is knit in a mix of this and Drops Baby Merino, and then I've also made a blanket with it before, and it's just so nice to work with, and it has this like nice little bit of halo because it is alpaca, so I really like working with this, and I kind of want to knit a levitate wrap with it as well. So I just, every time I work with it, I just remember how much I absolutely love this yarn, and 100% alpaca is just so insanely warm, and yeah, it's just one of my favorite fibers. So excited to continue to knit on that. And then I have another small project before we get to the biggest project, and that is the Sunday suit. This is also by Petiteknit, and this is a new cast on since last week, and I've actually gotten quite far. I've done the yoke, which is done in this like what's it called? It's a round yoke where you kind of you increase in the ribbing, so the ribbing goes from 1x1 ribbing to 4x4, which keeps it quite interesting to knit on, and then you separate for the sleeves, and then you just continue working on the body. And this one, if you've been watching my last podcast, you know that I've been knitting up an order for someone. They've ordered a couple of suits from me, and this one is the last suit I've done with the other two. So now I just have this one left until I'm done with that, and I'm super excited because knitting up this order has definitely been stressing me out. So super excited to be done with this and kind of have the opportunity to knit more on what I want to knit on and not feel like I have to knit on something. This is knit in Tynn Merino Ull by Selmas garn, and this is actually from their fabric outlet, like Fabrikkutsalg, where they're like second-rate yarn goes if the color is not quite correct, if there's a bit more knots in it, if there's something not perfect about the yarn, it goes there, and then you can buy it for much cheaper. So that's where this yarn is from. I don't really know the color name because, as you can see, when it's sold on that Fabrikkutsalg, it just gets this very plain bandroll with like the price tag on it, so I can't really tell anything from it, but I'm pretty sure it's Tynn Merino. If not, it's probably Sunday. But it's really nice to knit with, and in my experience, even though it is second-rate yarn, in my experience the yarn I buy full price from a store usually has the same amount of knots, if not more, and so I really like getting yarn from their Fabrikkutsalg, and luckily my fiance has family in the area. The Fabrikkutsalg is in Sandnes, but he has family there, so when we go visit them I can also buy yarn for like less than half, so that's super exciting. But yeah, I've just been kind of chugging along on this one because I'm really excited to get this order out of the way so I can focus on other things and just for it to not hang over my head anymore. But this is the last one of the bunch. This is in the size 2 to 4 months, so it is working up very quickly, and yeah, this yoke helps a lot with it working up very quickly because you don't really have to think about all the centimeters because you are increasing by so and so many centimeters, so I just focus on that and then it goes by much faster because it's always like a new place you have increased where you can really easily see your progress. So I find that really fun, even though I think it's a bit hard to kind of tell when it's been sewn so many centimeters, because in a round yoke I think it's much harder to kind of measure the length, because the yoke is so round, so everything is rounding out, which makes it harder to measure, I think. But I just do my best, and then that's what I go with. But yeah, it's in this kind of gray color. I don't know, it's very, very light gray, kind of beige, grayish, I don't know, but I like it a lot, so super excited to continue working on that. And hopefully this will be my last week knitting up this order, and then I can ship it and be done with it. So I can just focus on twin knits and selfish knits and knits for my son. But that brings me into my selfish knit for the month. And last week I didn't have the time to knit on this at all, because I was so stressed about knitting up that order. But this week I've actually gotten to knit on it a bit. Or not this week, but last night I finally felt like I've gotten enough progress on everything else, so I could pick up my selfish knit. And it was quite late at night, so I was like, oh, I don't have the energy to sit down and read the pattern and get into it and start the sleeves. I'll just work on the body, because I know the pattern there, it's established, I can just look at it and kind of move along. So I actually joined a skein and started working a bit on the body, but then I was like, I told myself I was going to work on the sleeves. I don't really have a good excuse not to work on the sleeves. And then I also hit like where the round starts, and I just told myself there's never really going to be a perfect time to sit down and read the pattern. It's never going to feel like the perfect time. You might as well just do it now, and then you'll at least have started. So that's what I did. I picked up stitches and just tried to figure out how the sleeves work up, and then I started knitting. And I think I started knitting at about midnight, honestly, because it had gotten quite late before I had mustered like the courage to start knitting on the sleeves. But it's a lot fewer stitches in the round, so the pattern got established quite quickly. And then also in the round, most of it is this like double moss stitch, is that what it's called? I think so. But you don't have to do any of this crisscrossing thing here. That this panel in the back and front does not exist on the sleeves. It's just double moss stitch and then the thing around the cable. So that made it work up much faster for me. You also do some decreases. My decreases are not even because I forget about them all the time, but I'm trying to like even them out a bit. But like sometimes there's definitely not the same amount of rows in between every decrease, but you can't really tell, so I'm fine with it. But I did get quite far last night, and I kept telling myself, no, I'm only going to do like one cable more, one row more, because it was quite late. But then I really got into it, and I didn't really look at the clock, and then my skein was almost running out, the skein of Charisma. I'm knitting this in Drops Charisma and Drops Kid Silk, and my skein of Charisma was almost running out, and I kept telling myself, no, like in this next round it's going to run out, so I'll just stop then. But I had kind of underestimated how much yarn actually was left on the skein, so I just stayed up and kept knitting till it was almost 4 a.m. I think. But it gave me quite the head start on this sleeve, so I think I'm I don't know, I think I have about 20 centimeters now. I did try it on before filming, so I can show that here. I am very pleased with how it's looking, and I think all the stitches are looking really nice, but it is definitely very, very, very snug compared to the loose fits it's supposed to have. So I have to block this quite aggressively when I'm done. So I'm kind of nervous about that because I'm not the best at blocking. I usually just wash my knits and then pull on them a bit, but this boy has to really be blocked because it's like hugging my skin now, and it's not supposed to be doing that, and that's not what I want for this. I want it to kind of be baggy. But I have started my sleeve, and I was really nervous about starting the sleeves. I thought they were going to take me forever because of a structure on DPNs. I just did not think that was going to be a fun time, but they've actually just flown by. So now that I see how fast they progress, I think this is definitely going to be something I prioritize this week and just moving forward, because I really want this sweater. I just want to cuddle up in it. I think it's going to be so cozy and perfect. Cables are just such a full vibe, even though I don't like knitting it up. This crisscross section in the front, I really like looking at it. So I'm super excited to actually have this in my wardrobe, and now that I've started the sleeve and actually gotten so far, I can kind of see the finish line. So it's just made me super excited to work on this. So hopefully I don't have that many other plans this week, so I can actually work on this and hopefully finish this sleeve and then maybe even start the other one, because then it would just be much easier to kind of try it on and just see how much it actually needs to be blocked. But I think it needs to be blocked like this much. I'm a bit nervous, also nervous to measure the length of the body, because you have to pull on it as much as you're going to pull on it when you block to measure the correct length. So I'm excited to see, or nervous to see how that goes, but at least I've gotten started on a sleeve now. Yeah, I just have to look in my sheet book to see where I'm at, but yeah, that's all of my whips. So I went from, I think at the max last week, I actually went up to 7 whips, which was really stressful and just scrambled my brain completely. But now I'm back down to 4, and I can see the finish line for most of them, which means like in my brain I'm almost back to like 1 or 2. So that's really been helping. But yeah, we can move into my finished knit. And first off is my biggest finished piece of the week, and that is the Selmas Sleepsuit. I'm going to call all of these finished, but there is no buttons, there's no ends weaved in, so they're not finished, but that's a problem for another day. We're going to call it finished. They're finished being knit. This is the Selmas Sleepsuit. It's knit in Sandnesgarn Kos in the color light marzipan, I think. This is knit in the size 3 to 6 months, and I used a bit under 300 grams of yarn. It's quite a long boy. I have not sewn down these flaps, I've just wrapped them, but yeah, this finally got done. I can't remember how far I had gotten last podcast, if I was finished with the body or not. Maybe I was, but I have finished all of the arms and legs, and this actually wasn't as bad to knit up as the Selma Sleepsuit usually is for me. I really hate knitting up the legs and arms for the Selmas Sleepsuit. It's my absolute favorite knit to knit for babies. I can't think of a single pattern I've used more and knit more for babies than the Selmas Sleepsuit. I've had this in every single size for my son, and in the winter months he's used them daily to sleep outside. So I can't recommend this enough, especially if you live in a country like Norway where babies usually sleep all their daytime sleep outside in a stroller, and we have winter like all year round. Really, really, really recommend this. I've knitted now in Sandnes Garn Kos, like this one. I've knitted in Drops Lima, which maybe is my favorite yarn to use for it. I've knitted in Drops Air, and I've knitted in Drops Nepal, which my son has in his current size. I wanted that thicker yarn because he's a bit older and just stays out for longer. But yeah, absolutely recommend this pattern. I really enjoy most of it because you just knit in garter stitch, so there's just stockinette stitches, which really makes it go by super fast up until you get to the sleeves. And I know in the pattern it says you're going to work those in garter stitch as well, but then you have to like sew all the seams to kind of connect them, because then you knit it and it's open, and I don't like sewing. Everything you have to do after knitting I'm not a fan of, so I just want there to be as little as possible work when you're done. So I knit them in the round, which means one row of stockinette and one row of purling, and that just kills my motivation usually. But this time it actually went okay. I think it was because I was so stressed about everything else, so I couldn't really focus about me not liking purl stitches. But I finished this, and now I just have to weave in all the ends and do buttons so I can ship this off. And then I also did finish the other thing for the order that I was knitting on last week, and that's the Monday suit. This is knitted in Sandnes Garn Sunday in their kit color. I don't know what that's in English. It's kit in Norwegian, but it's so hard to show it. It's the Monday suit. It's in the size 2 to 4 months. It's gotten this curved button band. It's so hard to show when there's no buttons, because this one doesn't have buttons either. The thing I actually have done is to do the stitches underneath here, because there's an opening here. So I'm sewed down that, and then haven't done anything else. This one used just over 100 grams of Sandnes Garn Sunday, so every size below 2 to 4 months you will just need 2 skeins for, but from there on up you need more. And I've done Italian cast on and bind off. I think it's tubular actually, but I just call it Italian, it's easier. Yeah, this is just very basic stockinette rounded button band. I, as always, did the buttons with twice as much space in between them, because I don't really know anyone that wants to knit up like 1,000 buttons when they're trying to wrestle a baby to get them dressed. That's just a pain in the ass also when you're going to change them and you have to open all the buttons. So instead of doing like 9 or 10 as I think this is supposed to have, I've done 5 buttons, and that works for me. I don't get too much gapping. I've never done that when I've never gotten too much gapping when I've done it like this. And I've done it like this since my son was a baby. But yeah, that's really all for this. Just super basic. I've followed the pattern except for those things. I think my goal last week was to finish the body, but that went quite quick, and I could have just stopped there and worked on other things like my Moby, but I just wanted it like out of the way. I wanted to get rid of as many whips as possible, and sleeves and legs for 2 to 4 months go by quite quickly, so I thought it would be better to just get it out of the way so I could relax and enjoy my other knits other than just having a lot on the needles and being stressed. And then my last finish, I actually finished a lot this week, is the other Anker blouse I talked about. This is in ice blue. It's also in 3 to 6 months, and here I did the sleeves and most of the body before I had to get more yarn because I had run out, and then I did helical knitting so you wouldn't be able to tell where I changed skeins, and I think that worked out. I don't think you can tell, like, I don't really think you can tell a super noticeable change. Maybe you can. Maybe it's picking up better on camera than in real life. I don't really see it in real life, but I feel like I maybe can see it on camera. But the one thing about helical knitting that you can see is like where I did it. You can see like here a line. So I hope that like straightens out when it's washed and the yarn kind of blooms a bit and relaxes, because I don't want this line from where I did the helical knitting. And I don't know, can you see the color difference, or am I just seeing things? I kind of feel like it is a bit of a difference, like here. I don't know. Hopefully it's not noticeable enough that the person I'm giving it away to will notice, but I'm super excited to have finished this. I really like the look of it. Even though I don't like sewing down edges, I did it for this, and I just think it's such a clean look to have no ribbing. I do it very seldomly because I don't like sewing down, but I think it's super pretty, so maybe I'll have to do it more. What else was I supposed to say? Yeah, I also really love this color. I'm like in love with this color. When I got this, like the extra skein I needed for this one, I was so tempted to just get more, and I'm glad I didn't, but I'm also sad I didn't, because oh my god, can you imagine like a t-shirt in this yarn for me? Just thinking about all the selfish knits, but it would be so pretty. Also knitting my son something in this, oh, it's such a perfect color. I feel both for like summer and winter and everything, but oh, I just want it in all of our wardrobes. But knitting through my stash first, and then this can be my gift. And I'm looking out the window now, and it started snowing. I'm not nearly done with my fall knitting plans, and we are moving into winter rapidly, so crossing my fingers, winter will hold off for a while longer so I can finish my fall knitting plans. But yeah, if you see here, these are all the things I need to weave in the ends for. Please hold me accountable. I need to have the ends of all of these weaved in by next week. It's like, it's so silly. This has been done for a month, and my son needs pants, and I have not weaved in the ends. So please keep me accountable, and if you have any tips to stop hating weaving in ends, give them to me, because this is a problem. I just put off weaving in ends for so long. It's on to more exciting news, and I know I have told myself, I've told you, I've really tried to like stick to a yarn ban, and every time I say it I end up buying more yarn. And I was so sure that last time I bought yarn, when I bought Drops Daisy, that was it, like for the rest of the year. But then I saw the Never sweater by Kopikali. I don't know how you say her name, but I saw the Never sweater, and I saw that she was searching for test knitters, and I really like the look of it. I don't really have any sweaters, but like a ton of positive ease, so it like tickled my fancy. I thought it was really cool. I really like the wide what's it called, the wide raglan, so I did apply for the test knit and I got in, and it's a super big sweater, lots of positive ease, so I don't actually have anything in my yarn stash that would fit the amount of yarn I would need. So then I had to go and buy yarn. So I've gotten Drops Lima, which is one of my favorite yarns to work with, one of my favorites yarn to use, and I think it will fit this sweater perfectly. I've gotten Drops Lima, and I've actually gotten it in the color Orchid. I'll show it here. It's like this lilac color, and I'm super excited about it. I don't really have anything like pink, red, lilac in my wardrobe. I think I have maybe something close to pink and red, but nothing lilac. So super excited to test out this new pattern. I'm new to a lot of positive ease. I'm new to lilac. It's like a lot of new things. So I'm super excited to start this test knit. I haven't gotten my yarn yet, but I'm probably getting it at the start of next week, and then I'll probably start pretty quickly. The one thing though is I don't really want to have 2 selfish knits on my needles at the same time, so I might feel like I have to finish the Moby sweater first, but there is a really long deadline for this test knit, which is good, because if not I couldn't have done it, because I have so many other plans and so many other things happening. But I think it's 12 weeks for this test knit, and that should be plenty, so I should have the time to finish my Moby before starting, but I might get too excited to work with Drops Lima and test knit this pattern, and I'm just super excited about it and kind of honored to be able to test knit. I think it's really fun to test knit for others. This is, I think I had to label this as an ad because I'm talking about doing a test knit. But yeah, I'm super excited about getting to test knit and getting, I've done a couple of test knits before, but that's been more like bonnets and baby clothes. So I'm super excited now to get to test knit like an adult sized huge sweater. So super excited, can't wait to get my yarn, can't wait to get started, all of that. And then what my brain has been the most occupied with this last week is this swatch right here. And this is the swatch for a project that I'm considering casting on, but I'm going in between considering casting it on and like telling myself I shouldn't all the time. It's just a little swatch. It's on 4 millimeters here and then 4.5 here with an I-cord. And this swatch is the swatch for what possibly could be my wedding dress if I decide to knit it. I have been engaged for quite some time now, and then COVID, and then a child, and then the ball kind of stopped rolling, but we are getting married. And this week I saw Kutavakika, I think. I saw her knit her wedding dress. I saw that whole video and I just got super inspired, and I think I've kind of always imagined myself knitting my wedding dress since I started knitting when I was so young. And I also knit the baptism dress for my son. I can show pictures of that here. And it was really special to be able to knit his baptism dress for such a big day and being able to knit it. And I also feel like that would be true for a wedding dress. But the baptism dress, me only knitting on that, took a month of just knitting a lot, and my son was a lot younger, so I had much more knitting time in the day because he slept all the time when he was a baby. So I had so much knitting time and it took me a month. And I can just imagine how long a wedding dress would take me then, because a wedding dress is much larger than a baptism dress and I have less knitting time and just everything. So I'm very much on the fence to if knitting my wedding dress would be a good idea, if the pros outweigh the cons, because I would have to be done in the right time. I would have to get all the measurements right. I'm not a designer like Kutavakika is. I don't knit that much on freehand anymore, but I also think it would be a really fun challenge and it would be very meaningful if I were able to do it. So I don't know, I'm just using this to kind of like air out my thoughts. Please let me know if you think I should do it, if you think it would be too large of an undertaking. I don't even know how much yarn I would need. How much yarn do you think you would need? I'm thinking like fingering weight times 2, like knitting for Olive Merino or Sandnesgarn Sunday held double 4mm. And then I'm thinking probably some more here for some other things. I have quite a lot of ideas, and I've even, I've even drawn like a sketch of what I think would be like a nice wedding dress. The problem is that I can have all of these ideas, but I'm not actually a designer, so I don't know if I can get them like out into life. And this is definitely like a very high risk project to start when learning to design, so very on the fence. So airing this out here, maybe you guys can tell me if I should or shouldn't. I also have a lot of other things now happening, the test knit, everything, so I probably wouldn't be able to start until the new year anyways. But this swatch is definitely tempting me. This swatch, this is obviously not for the whole thing, this is for like the part where it goes from the top and into the skirt, like here, what the skirt would look like. It probably doesn't mean a lot to you, but like I can see it from my ideas, and I'm just super excited about it, but also and really want to do it, and it's like all I can think about. I've literally been dreaming about it, like going to sleep at night and dreaming about construction. But yeah, I'm also very nervous about it, and I don't know if I can actually do it. And it's a very, very, very big, like it takes up a lot of time and a lot of yarn and a lot of money for that yarn, and I'm not sure if I would be able to do it. So it's quite risky. So I'm both like trying to talk myself out of it and into it. So if you have any opinions on it, let me know. I don't know, maybe I would try to do like the top part of it as just a top to see if I would be able to do that. But here you can see it. I want like kind of a square neckline and then this top and I-cord in the waist and then a dress. And then I'm thinking actually around here, this is going to be like a skirt in mohair that you can tie on to give it that poof, because I think this is just, I don't know if it will work. I'm not a designer, but I think if you were to do all of these increases that's made these ruffles here, but do it on like a 10 or 7 millimeter needle with like double strand of mohair, it would be very fluffy, and if you were to tie it around your waist, then it would like go out to make kind of that traditional wedding dress look. I think that would be cool, but I don't know if it would work like that. But I think if everything were to work out like I have it in my head, it would be very cool. But it's a large time investment just to see if I'm right about something. Yeah, but I would definitely like to have made my own dress, and I think it would be very special if I was able to make like a dress for all of those really special occasions, like the baptism and a wedding and everything. I think that would mean more than to just buy it. And I know you could also like sew a wedding dress, but I'm not good at sewing, so I think that would be a worse idea. But yeah, that's kind of what's been on my brain all week when I'm working on other projects as well. I'm just thinking about how I could do the construction and everything. So yeah, maybe I'll just have to do it to get it out of my head. But yeah, that was everything for this week's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and a comment. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. Bye!